Hey guys, it's Miss Henricks. So this is your second week of online classes, and I am just providing this PowerPoint to give you a little more guidance for what you need to do with this coming week. So first thing I'm going to do is go over attendance just to make sure we're all on the same page. Then I'm going to kind of recap what we should have done last week, go into expectations for next week. We're going to be cleaning up those scenes 1 through 5 that you should have completed by now. I want you to be turning in scenes 1, 2, and 3 if you didn't turn them in before spring break. And then you should have submitted scene 4 and 5 either via email or via Remind this past week. And then we're going to talk about what your expectations are for scenes 6 and 7, and also that desire and extension worksheet. I will be providing a little bit more information about that. Okay, so it is crucial that you are responding to those attendance questions and posts that are going out on Remind. You either need to have thumbs up or liked the one that was from Monday the 23rd. And going forward, we're going to have you responding to questions. If you don't respond to those questions, you're going to be marked absent. So just make sure that you're doing that. If you don't have Remind for some reason or it's not working, the codes are below right there, A day, B day. Make sure that you get into that because that's where a lot of the content is going to be coming from. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page with that going forward. So at this point, you should have finished scene 4 and 5 and turned in your handouts. You want to make sure that you are answering all of the questions because some of you guys skipped a few of the questions on that scene 4 handout, especially number 10, the one asking for extension. So make sure you're answering all of the questions. And with that theme and commentary chart at the bottom, I want you to make sure that you are providing a commentary for that theme. So if it says power or desire in that first box, you need to be giving me a commentary about power, a commentary about desire in that first box. Just want to make sure you're filling that in correctly. So scene 4 starts after Stella and Stanley have that fight in the poker night, and we see Blanche coming into the room and finding that Stella is kind of unfazed by the whole situation. She obviously slept with him the night before, which indicates that the relationship wasn't negatively impacted by him beating Stella. So Blanche really doesn't understand why Stella is okay with this situation, but we see this when Stella says, but there are things that happen between a man and a woman in the dark that sort of make everything else seem unimportant. She's talking about that desire that they have for each other, that passion. It makes everything okay. It makes it okay for him to be violent and for that physical aspect of their interactions to be overlooked by her. She's okay with the situation because, he's passionate. It's him displaying his power. It's her being able to be submissive and overpowered by her man, which is something that she desires. That is her desire. So Blanche is not okay with this. Blanche starts going into this whole spiel about how she's going to reach out to Shep Huntley, that guy that she had a relationship with previously, and he's going to get them out of there. He's going to fix the situation, but Stella obviously doesn't want to get out of the situation. She doesn't see anything wrong with it, so she isn't really giving into this situation with Blanche and what she wants to do in terms of reaching out to Shep. But then Blanche kind of goes a little bit farther and starts really hating on Stanley and, calling him all of those animal words, a brute, talking really negatively about him, and he ends up overhearing it. So he comes in and acts like everything is fine, which obviously we know he isn't going to like being called those kinds of names. We already know he doesn't like anybody challenging him or his power. So he comes in and he just ignores the situation, and then at the very end we have him kind of grinning at Blanche in this like aha moment of like, I've won. Stella is going to come back to me no matter what. I still have the power, which is a display of his desire to continue to have that desire to be that masculine, manly figure in his home. So scene 5 starts with Blanche still obsessing over this communication she's trying to have with Shep, where she thinks that he can help solve the situation that she is in, even if it doesn't mean that Stella will be helped. We know that because she is writing him saying that Stella is fine and she's going north, and they're doing all these fancy things because that's part of the fantasy that she's living in, is that she's living this extravagant life. She wants to be able to say that she's doing those things because that's what's expected of her, but it's kind of unclear whether she really is buying into that or if she's just still trying to maintain that facade and make other people think that she is living this type of lifestyle, but we'll see more of that going forward. So we have a little fight between Eunice and Steve at the very beginning here, where Eunice is yelling, saying that she's going to call the police, and then she doesn't, obviously, which is just a highlight of the fact that women were really dependent on men at that point in time. Eunice isn't going to, like, call the police and put herself out because of this one little scuffle that they have. The same exact thing happened between Stella and Stanley, and no police got involved. It's obviously happened before, and they are still together. He's still free. So this is just another example. It's a mirror of Stella and Stanley's relationship that kind of drives home the way that these interactions are happening between couples at the time. And then we get into Blanche and Stanley discussing those astrological signs, and we know that Virgo is a virgin, and we have Stanley kind of calling attention to some Shaw person back in Laurel, and he starts kind of accusing her of doing some sketchy stuff with him or in this place called the Flamingo, which would have been maybe like a motel. Some sketchy things may have been happening there, and we have Blanche kind of blowing it off. Obviously, she doesn't need anything like that tainting her reputation, so she's not going to acknowledge that. She's like, oh, must be somebody else. I would never be seen in a place like that. And that's even driven home by this next thing we're talking about, with her freaking out about that stain on her white skirt. So when you think about white, you can think about purity, virginal, just clean. And we have her getting this stain, this potential stain on her white skirt. It's very symbolic of her purity as a person right after that conversation between her and Stanley, where he's kind of questioning her purity. So those two things go hand in hand. She has that conversation with Stella about really wanting Mitch to desire her, but it doesn't really seem like she cares all that much for him as a person. She just really wants someone to desire her, almost like something we can throw back to No Exit, with Estelle being very concerned with having a man want her, and Garson's the only man there, so he's her only option. So we have that connection there. And so after that, we have a really weird interaction between the young man who's selling the magazines and Blanche. And I want us to really think about the fact that her husband died when they were very young, and her youth is something that she has continually tried to hold on to with a lot of the things she's been doing. So staying out of direct sunlight or direct light in general. She's not wanting to be seen in light so that she doesn't show how old she actually is. She has explicitly lied about how old she is to numerous people. And then she's kissing this random paper boy who is clearly a boy. He's a young man in his description. So we know that she's longing for that past. She's kind of living in this delusion. And then also, it's just another way for her to feel desired as a person as well. Just to clean everything up, I want to make sure you've turned in your scene 4 and 5 handout that were assigned last week. You should have either emailed those or sent them via Remind. If you haven't turned in your scenes 1, 2, and 3 handouts yet, you still can. I want you to go ahead and take a picture of those, send them via Remind or to Mr. RP's email. If you need a copy of them, I can send it to you as well, and you can fill it out the way we've done the scene 4 and 5. One of the other things we're going to be working on this week is the Desire and Extension handout. A-Day students, you received this on the Friday before break. B-Day students, it's going to be included in in the same Word document as your Scene 6 and 7 handout. So if you didn't get it on A-Day, you also are able to get it from that document. If you already have it and it's completed, go ahead and take a picture of it and send it via Remind or to Mr. RP's email.